Welcome to another episode of Just Cuz, the podcast where two cousins talk about things they love.
Just cuz. And today is finally the day. We are doing our long-awaited, often talked about Wandavision episode. Let's go. Let's go.
Yes. And up to this point, I don't know how much we're going to talk about it. Inevitably, we're going to get into it a little bit. But we have seen up to 3 episodes of Agatha all along.
Yes. The first 3 episodes have come out. They are amazing. If you disagree,
we'll save our thoughts really for later.
Okay.
Because this is about WandaVision, but just
Yes.
know that we have seen up to 3.
Mm-hmm.
So what... Should we just go chronologically with WandaVision, or should we talk about the premise? Like, how do we get into this?
Let's start with the state that the world was in when WandaVision came out.
Yes.
If you all will just go back in time with us for a second. Everything was hell. We were all stuck inside.
People were getting sick.
People were dying. It was bad. And the MCU had, well, there was nothing coming out of Hollywood. There was a lot of stuff, and then there was nothing. And
everything was just long delayed.
Yes. So the MCU, who had just come off the high of Avengers Endgame, which was, their biggest box office success in history,
Made
I believe.
Billions.
Yeah. Infinity War made more, but Endgame was very successful.
It just made 1 billion, but still, that's a lot.
It's a lot. No, I think it definitely made more than 1 billion. Anyway, so the MCU, actually, that's not true. Spider-Man had come out before this. So there was Spider-Man No Way Home, but wait, was there?
Or Far From Home.
Far From Home. No. Yes, you're right. Spider-Man Far From Home. I get confused.
Which was like the epilogue to the Infinity Saga.
Yes, they're all home motifs. I get confused, but
right.
Spider-Man.
It's bad naming. I kind of like it and I kind of hate it. I don't know.
I mean, it makes sense for
the
film,
matter.
But yeah, as a trilogy, they're confusing. Anyway, WandaVision came out in a moment where everything was uncertain. Everything in the world was uncertain, but more specifically to the point that we're talking about, everything in the MCU was uncertain. People didn't know.
Was WandaVision even meant to kick off?
It was not. Thank you for asking that
4?
question. Thank you for asking that question. It was not meant to kick off Phase 4. I believe Phase 4 was meant to kick off with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That or like Loki.
No, Loki, because what happened, the shuffle became WandaVision, then Loki, then Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But Falcon and the Winter Soldier was supposed to come first, I think. Again, I don't do
sense.
research, so I'm just pulling this all out of my ass. But I think I'm right, and that's what matters.
Right.
But when WandaVision was coming out, the trailers and the hype around it before it came out was so interesting because it promised something completely new, never seen in the MCU before. This was a romp through a mirage of old sitcoms. And the mystery at the heart of it, what the hell are Wanda and Vision doing in a sitcom? And he's supposed to be dead.
How's Vision alive?
Yeah.
And the whole lead up, they were like, multiverse? Maybe.
We don't know. The culture that stemmed from watching WandaVision as it was coming out was unlike anything else. Again, we were all stuck inside. We had nothing to do.
I think there was a general buzz of excitement, but there was still some naysayers that will always
obviously there were
something.
people who were like, I don't like sitcoms, I don't like those things, where's the shooty thing that I want from comic book movies. Sorry for that voice. But and I don't care for those people. I personally am a TV enthusiast, okay? Television specifically. Currently, I am at school getting a master's degree in television. So it is something that I am very passionate about. And every time someone said to me back during those days, "Oh, why is it doing this? Why is it going through these old like
why is it being creative?
sitcoms?" Yeah, and I'm like, what do you want it to just be like everything else? Like, shut the fuck up and enjoy it.
And
this is so interesting.
And that's because superhero movies or just Marvel movies or anything, like any genre, can be broad and can encompass anything so long as it's creative and fun.
Absolutely. I mean, comic books are just a free-for-all.
Oh my God,
you can do
yes.
anything in a comic book. And they don't all have to be classic, fly save the world from big super beam. I'm looking at you, Suicide Squad, not the Suicide Squad. We love
Or
you.
any Blue Beam movie, Man of Steel.
Batman v
I'm trying to think of
Superman.
any other. Fantastic Four.
Oh,
So many of those.
all of them. But I
I
the
should
Fantastic
also...
Four. not
No, I'm talking about Fant Four Stick.
I hate Fant Four Stick. Okay, we're on the same page. I don't like the old Fantastic Four movies because they're good movies. They are not. I like them because I watched them as a kid and it's nostalgia. But
I can't come around. I'm sorry.
What?
I can't.
That's crazy. And I love Julian McMahon. He was in everything that year and I freaking love him.
We've talked about this on the podcast before, but he is a great Doctor Doom.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I should also mention that WandaVision itself is kind of, not really, but sort of based off of a Tom King's Vision run. Have you read that or heard about it?
I, of course, have heard about it. It was the, weren't they in the California Avengers team, the West Coast Avengers, and then they took a break, and then they were like, let's play house.
A little bit. Vision just had some traumatic stuff happen, so then he was like, nope. I'm going to go off and do my own thing. I'm going to build a family. And then there's some repercussions. But this is very similar in tone to that. Like, not in story, but just in idea.
Right. So, basically, I mean, if you're listening to this, you know what WandaVision's about. It came out long enough ago. The premise of
what's the mystery?
WandaVision...
You know.
We all know the mystery. We all know what it is, okay? Wanda is a fan of sitcoms, and she has had some very horrifically traumatic things happen in her life. And, understandably, that causes a bit of a mental breakdown. But since she is so powerful, like the most powerful, like fight me if you think there's anyone more powerful than her.
Rewrite reality.
Like she can literally do anything. They make fun of it in one of the commercials, like the antidepressant commercial, but they do reference her being a Nexus being. They super reference it, even though it's not really a plot point in the show and nobody explains what it is. If you know the comics, you know what that is. She is the thing holding the reality together.
Well, she will either like rule it or destroy it. Like that's what's prophesized.
And boy, have we seen some of that. I don't want to go there because I don't want to, but we'll get there, unfortunately.
But we're also kind of getting ahead of ourselves because it's episode 7, which honestly has some of the best retconning I've ever seen. And that's where everything is explained. And the whole time I was wondering, like, I love this. I love seeing all of the show references going forward a decade or so every week. But how is it going to be explained? And then it is, and it's emotional, and it's given weight, and it's perfect.
Well, so let's just talk about the consensus around WandaVision going into this. Going into this, everyone sort of came away from WandaVision with the same thing when it first aired. It was a brilliant show. It was amazing. Everyone loved it. But
maybe the finale was okay, but
everyone was let down by the last episode, by the finale.
Right.
And
but the overall writing was good. That was the consensus.
That was the consensus of WandaVision. Going back through this for me, not only was it so much fun and I got so much more out of it. Every time I watch this, I get so much out of it because of the way that they play in the decades so faithfully. They really recreate that, you know, sitcom feeling of the 1950s with the Dick Van Dyke Show, and the 60s Bewitched, the 70s. You know, like they really, I'm just going to say, they really stepped their pussy up. They really put everything into these episodes, and they were
You can
so
see
good.
the effort.
Those theme songs, those were
Yes.
so incredible. They were, first of all, they were written by the people who did the music for Frozen. That I think they're
I didn't know that.
either husband and wife or brother and sister. I don't know, but like they have the same last name. And they did the music for Frozen, and they did these, and it's just
and
like
they're all incredible.
they're so good. Like,
and
they're
you can
all incredible.
see the inspiration, but it's still like, I don't know about
It's
if
still its
legally
own
distinct is
thing.
the right word, but yeah.
It's not a direct parody of any. I mean, it's not a parody. It is very
no, it's like a
heavily
respectful
inspired.
homage.
Yes.
While
but
also
it also
still doing its own musical cues.
Right, but it also makes sense within the narrative because Wanda loved these shows, and she's imagining her life as being in these sitcoms.
As she's probably done in her childhood as she watched them for hours on end, presumably.
Right. But the way that everything is crafted is so much a labor of love. You can see that the people who worked on this were so in love with it. And honestly, so was I. I was not originally one of the people who was let down by the finale. I thought the finale was very interesting the first time around, but I didn't feel let down, but I didn't feel the elation that I thought I would feel at the end of the run the first time I watched it. I have watched it since then, but never with such a long time in between. I haven't watched it for maybe 2 years at this point, a year or two, I don't know. But I definitely have a different takeaway this time. And I want to hear what you have to say first before I say it.
So I feel like I have almost the flip side of my takeaway, where the first time I watched it, I just, I loved it throughout. I had my flaws, but even the finale, like, you all know me, I like action. It had some cool action, some oogly boogly shooting lightning that I didn't like, but it was still fun.
Oogly.
But every time that I've rewatched it since, and I think I rewatched it like 6 months ago, and then I rewatched it over the past week, it's hammered home the same idea that there are some phenomenal ideas and some phenomenal writing in this show, but it is let down by such a bad finale. And that is just, I don't know, I can't get away from that idea in my head. And I feel like we're going to get into that reasoning, but
interesting.
that's just my takeaway.
Well, I mean, we can get into it. Personally, I'm of the opposite opinion. I was very much more impressed with the finale upon another rewatch. And I'll go and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
First of all, a thing that a lot of people don't like is the second vision. Why there have to be a white vision? Why did they do this? Why is they just wanted Vision to have a fight with himself, yada yada yada. Narratively, yes, as a function of the story, yes, Vision needs to be distracted because Wanda needs to face Agatha alone, and she can't have
I'm sure
him
you're
with
about
her.
to say this, but I'm cool with that. It leads to a cool fight and a cool conversation. So.
Well, what I was gonna say is, that needs to happen. Wanda needs to face Agatha. So I understand the plot purpose of that, but that is not the reason that they have another Vision. Let me tell you this. The reason, at least in my interpretation, that they have a second Vision is, imagine you're Wanda. You have just faced the fact that your husband is dead, or they weren't even actually married, right? But they had run away together, so they are, for all intents and purposes, married, right? The love of your life,
or at least living this fantasy with him.
Right, but I was talking about like the physical version of Vision.
Oh, well, yeah.
In Infinity War, they had run off together. They had been together for 2 years. They had no intention of ever parting. They were, for all intents and purposes, committed to each other and married, right? So the love of your life is dead. You have just walked through the most traumatic memories of your life with someone who is an antagonist to you, someone who does not have your best interest in heart, right? They forced you to do this, and you had to relive the most traumatic moments in your life. The last of which being you going to find your partner's body to bury him, and that body being, you find that body being ripped apart, mutilated, and seen only as a weapon and not as the person that you loved.
Or not even a weapon. Well, I mean, obviously they see it as a weapon, but property.
Yeah,
like, that's
property,
the worst of it.
A thing, not a person. And you have no right to his physical being, to his body, now that he has passed. And then you take that, like, it's awful, but you take that in stride. You don't lose your shit there. Then you find his will, or whatever that was, and you drive all the way to New Jersey, and you find this house, this property that he was planning to build a house for the two of you to grow old in. I'm already crying just talking about it. Okay?
And the little note that he leaves with the red heart.
No, stop. I can't even stop it. Okay. So and then you have a mental breakdown. And because you're so powerful, you create this fake world. It really is a psychosis. That's what it is. She is not living in reality, but because she is so powerful, she can make her unconscious thoughts reality. She can create into being what is not there. That is psychosis, right? Mm-hmm. So just exiting out of your psychosis, just realizing what you have been doing and reliving these traumatic moments in your life, then suddenly you are faced with the reanimated corpse of your dead partner, and he tries to kill you.
Right.
What do you think that does to a person?
The metaphorical side of it, where if you, I don't know, break up with someone or the relationship ends for whatever reason, and then in your own head, you just live through the fantasy of, oh, what could have been. And then while you're living through that fantasy, you're just smacked in the face with the reality of it. I like all that. Yeah.
I mean, that's like, it's really another trauma point in Wanda's long life of trauma, you know? It's trauma. It's trauma. We're all Jamie Lee Curtis. But it really is so visceral, right? And because for a moment, she believes that is Vision again. And she believes that she will make her way out of this thing that she has created.
And even that moment where he touches her face, and then he uses both hands, and for a second you're just like, oh, they're back. But you know that that's the evil one, and then he's like, they told me you would be formidable, and then he starts crushing her head. That's great. It's
just so awful. Like she's my favorite character. She's my favorite character in the MCU. Actually, you know what? She was until Agatha all along. Now I have some other favorite characters, but I still do love her. Wanda's still my favorite character. She's so interesting. I have
such a hard time choosing a favorite. I don't know if I could.
Yeah. It's for me, it's easy. Nobody gets my little analytical brain working as much as Wanda does. And that's how I pick a favorite character. In Interview with the Vampire, it's Armand. I want to study his brain under a microscope. That's how I know they're my favorite, because I want to tear them apart and learn everything about them. Like Sylar from Heroes. That's who I am.
Yes. Give me the miracle blood.
Miracle blood. You need to rewatch that.
Whatever the hell he says. But honestly, that's why WandaVision is great, because it just dissects her character, or at least episode 7 does.
No, the whole thing is a dissection. It's meant to lull you, just like it's lulling her, you know, but each and every time she awakens more and more. Every single time it resets and moves on to a different decade, it's because something has went wrong. Something has penetrated her delusion. And
or even when I was first watching it week to week, my assumption was that every time that we went forward a decade or so, she was running away from something.
She is.
And I guess that is right. Yeah, because she's running away from her problems.
That's exactly what it is.
Someone.
The way that her unconscious brain is working is going, okay, this sitcom is not the right one for me because my life doesn't work here. I'm being reminded of the trauma that I'm trying to escape. This is exactly what not dissociative identity disorder, but dissociative disorders do. Like that, what she is doing is dissociating. That's what she's done her whole life. She's dissociated through television. And that's what she's still doing. She just has the power of a god, and it's not great for the people in her vicinity. Yeah,
putting them under not great conditions.
But she's not doing it on purpose. Like, we all know
subconscious.
Wanda.
But she is doing it.
She is doing it, but she doesn't mean to. The second she finds out what she's actually doing to them, like... you can see in the 80s episode, like, she is like trying to escape from it. That's the classic technique of like trying to I don't remember what it's called. I'm not a psychiatrist, but like escape from reality. She's making all these excuses. I don't know what it's called either, but there's a word, and I'm gonna remember it later, and I'm gonna be so mad at myself, but whatever. But she's trying to escape. She's telling Vision, "Do you really think I'm controlling everybody? I don't know how I did this," and that's the truth. She doesn't know how she did this. She didn't mean to, but she is controlling everybody, and that's terrifying.
I don't know if this is the term that you were looking for, but she's just gaslighting Vision, which is like, I couldn't do this. That would be impossible for me to do.
That's not the word I'm looking for, because she's not gaslighting Vision, because she genuinely, consciously doesn't realize that she's doing that.
Honestly,
she's not gaslighting.
I think as it goes on, that may be just my different interpretation of the show, but especially episode 5, which is where they have that big confrontation, which is honestly one of my favorite parts of the show. And like the credits go up and then she stops it, or at least, that was my whole thing.
She's trying to stop it. He says, "You can't control me like you do them." And she says, "Can't I?" And the credits start to roll. And she's trying to stop it, but he doesn't let her. He pushes through. He says, your delusion, your hallucinations are not going to get you out of this one. This is not, you need to face reality. And then she doesn't, but I think she would have if that had gone on. The reason she doesn't is because Agatha sends quote unquote Pietro to her door, but
which that's a whole nother conversation we'll get to.
We'll get to it. But the reason there, she doesn't actually, investigate what is actually happening because she's on the defensive with Vision. And if they had more time to get into that argument, I think she would have realized what she was doing, but
100%.
But she was distracted. She was distracted by Pietro and what she wanted most in that moment.
I think that my different interpretation is that she might have been just closer to that realization, but I definitely think that if that conversation went on, like, the show would have been over. But Agatha stepped in.
Yeah, well, the thing is like, she knows she's created a false world. By the time she gets to the 70s, she knows that. No, hold on. I have a point I'm trying to make. She definitely doesn't know in the 50s, because when Mrs. Hart and Mr. Hart, actually Mr. and Mrs. Davis, asked her, you know, how'd you meet? How blah blah blah? Where'd you come from? She genuinely does not know. She's like, wait a second, I don't remember any of this stuff. That's a psychosis moment. She genuinely doesn't know how this started and where, she can't remember where they came from. But by the time they get to the end of the 60s episode, she realizes that she can change things that she doesn't like. She says no. She says no, and time rewinds, which is crazy. That's crazy in, you know, a superhero power kind of, you know, if we're talking about that, that's crazy powerful, you know? But
no, it was a penny drop moment, and that's,
for sure,
if you didn't already know, that's the moment where the viewer's like, oh crap, it's Wanda. And I think that episode or the next episode even ends with Monica saying that.
That's like, episode Wanda. 3 ends with that. Or episode 4 ends with that. Episode 3 ends with Monica getting hurled out of the hex, and then episode 4 explains it.
As someone who likes cool action, her getting thrown from wall to wall, that was just as the camera panned to the side.
That was awesome. That sequence was in episode 4, but she's
whenever it is,
she lands at the edge of the hex, and
because she just takes her and throws her out.
Sure, yeah, and it's, by that point she already knows that this world isn't real. But she doesn't understand the extent of what she's doing to the people in this world. She's not actively controlling them. She's passively controlling it. She's subconsciously doing it. And even over the next couple or few episodes, it's kind of hinted at the fact that she's just turning a blind eye to that. She could easily figure it out, but she doesn't want to. Of course she could, but that's how these sort of dissociative episodes work. The brain is protected. The reason that dissociation happens is because the brain is protecting itself from the reality that it wants to escape from, right? So if she had to face what she's doing to these people, she would have to face why she's doing it. And the harm that she's causing and the harm that's been done to her already. And her brain cannot stand that. So it doesn't. So she deflects. And that's the word I was looking for. Or at least not when earlier. She's deflect.
In a happy environment.
Right. No. Even if she's happy in her fake world, it's not real. Her brain is still protecting her. She's not really happy because she's not really herself. She's not in reality.
And her part of her brain understands that, even if she just doesn't want to accept it.
Right. And by the time it gets to the last episode, when all of the people come up to her, she even says, she's in tears. She genuinely wants to believe this. I don't know at this point if she does believe it, but she genuinely wants to believe. She says, "No, you're happy here. You feel at peace," because that is what she wants to feel here. But no matter how hard she tries, reality keeps seeping in. She has to keep changing the decade because she doesn't actually feel at peace. And she doesn't, she's not content. She's not happy. She is traumatized and wounded and suffering. And what she's doing to these people unknowingly is projecting her subconscious feelings onto them. They say, when you let us sleep, we have your nightmares. She's not inflicting...
Which is just terrible.
It's horrific. But she's not inflicting outward trauma on them. It's her. It's all from within her. You know?
Or even the thought that she might have known that controlling them was kind of affecting their thoughts, but she was like, no, I'm happy, so it's making them happy and peaceful. And then they finally get the chance to speak up, and they're like, no, you're miserable, and we're feeling how miserable you are, and it's infecting us.
Yeah. That's exactly it. And and the second that she fully comprehends that, she lets them go. She's not a bad person.
Yeah, because she's a hero.
She is a hero, or she has been historically.
She's also been a villain historically. But...
No, we're not talking about that yet. I'm putting it off for as long as possible.
She was introduced as a villain.
Yes, she was introduced as a villain, but she and Pietro were introduced as sympathetic villains.
Yes.
Who were, they were turned into heroes within that film. So their arc within that film is one of heroism, even though Pietro dies.
And I do find it interesting
Avengers
that her villain introduction is all tied to revenge. Because that's all that she's about.
I don't think so. I don't think that's all she's about. I mean,
not currently, but when she was introduced.
When she was introduced, they had nothing else. She and Pietro, their entire country had been war-torn, and they had been, as children, trapped under a bed in rubble for 10 days with nothing but an unexploded Stark bomb to look at. I would be filled with revenge, too. In all honesty.
I'm talking negatively about that just because it isn't really expanded in Age of Ultron, but now with WandaVision, that is fantastic.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Age of Ultron, we all know that was a terrible movie.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not, nothing is properly done in that film. But it's interesting that she and her brother go after not the country who was dropping bombs on them, but the person who manufactured the bombs. That's interesting.
It was the name on the bomb.
Yeah.
I would be pissed at him too.
Sure. But that's interesting to me because that means that they might not have been looking for the problem in the right place. I mean, it is a right place. Tony should not have been manufacturing weapons and selling them to foreign governments. Or honestly, any government. I don't think, whatever. But that's me. That's just me. But yeah, that's something to note. That's something interesting. And I hope that and a lot more will get explored in this future Scarlet Witch film, if that ever happens.
That was confirmed recently. What?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited. And apparently more spin-offs, but I don't know. We'll get into that later.
But Wanda deserves a film devoted to her.
Yes.
Okay? She deserves an expertly crafted story as good as WandaVision because what they did to her is unforgivable. And
it's
will not forgive...
that she hasn't got a movie yet.
I will not forgive Sam Raimi, even though I like his work. I will not forgive him.
I
my favorite.
I gotta wrap
character.
up some thoughts on WandaVision
Yes,
because
no,
I
we're not done.
want to talk about Multiverse of Madness too.
Yes, I have.
Because I also rewatched that.
Absolutely, I have. I was leading to something and I totally forgot what it was, but I do remember. So yeah, I got off track. But anyway, in the finale, Vision has to be. Yeah, I am going way back. Vision has to be distracted. And
we were on a massive tangent, but
that's okay. That's okay. What is this podcast if not one massive tangent? So Vision needs to be distracted. The way that they did that, I love, because Vision, sorry, my boy, he's never been a fighter. You know, he is a fighter. He's a robot built for, you know, whatever. But he is a scholar. He is an intellectual. My guy loves a philosophical problem, you know? And what better face-off between two Visions than the ship of Theseus? Like,
and they're just
that's so
arguing
good.
about it.
That's just so good. No, they're not arguing. They're debating. And it's everything to me. And I love that.
That's the word that I was looking for, debating. Yeah. I feel like both of us perked up the moment that he was like, have you ever heard the tale of the ship of Theseus? We're just like, oh, this is happening.
It's why my favorite philosophical quandary. Yes, do tell me more, Vision. I love that. Oh, so good. And it's just I have absolutely no qualms with the second Vision. I did upon first watch. But rewatching that, I'm like, I understand the utility of the second Vision, and I appreciate what they did with it. And, you know, it makes thematic sense for Wanda, and it makes thematic sense for Vision. So I'm all for it.
And I don't think I ever had a problem with it, because I'm always fine with, if a narrative has, you know, thematic purpose, go ahead and throw in some action characters on top of that, because I also like to see action.
For sure. Wanda, on the other hand, she and, you know, Agatha, they get into their fight. And this fight has been deemed, you know, just another flying, you know, throwing lasers at each other battle. And that's, you know, why a lot of people didn't like it. And I do see that. Do I think they could have been more creative with the witchy stuff? Yes. Absolutely. Okay, they could have done more than just throwing beams at each other. But
there's the one moment where Wanda goes into her mind.
That's what I was just getting to. Okay,
sorry, I ruined that for you.
It's okay. It's okay. But you know, like, Wanda's thing was always getting into people's heads, you know, from her introduction. And I love that she does that again. We get to see some of Agatha's, you know, history from the beginning of the episode brought back, and when Wanda's in her head, implying that Wanda saw that flashback that we saw earlier in the episode. And there's so much there that is not flying sparkle, you know, like the way that she
and
beats
the end result
Agatha
is great.
Yeah, the way that she beats Agatha is not by overpowering her. It's by listening to Agatha and using the magic that Agatha taught Wanda about earlier in the episode against her, but in a way more powerful way, in a huge setting. And I think that's great. Okay, I had no problem with it. I thought it was excellently done. The ending with the kids and Wanda and Vision, oh my God, my heart screams every single time. Beautiful. Do I think there's some things that it could have improved on? Yes. Okay. I think it was a little packed with putting Monica's origin story in there. I mean,
it didn't need her.
It wasn't that bad, but it was very clearly not about this story. It's set up for another story. You can tell. Okay? Someone who was very important to this story, Kat Dennings' character, whose name is eluding me at the moment.
Darcy.
But Darcy, thank you. She was not there. Like you could tell Kat Dennings was not there for filming on the day. She was there for one scene where she crashed into a car and she said, "Have fun in prison," and that was literally it. So I don't know what happened there.
I think the showrunner even said that they had to tie up too many loose ends, and Darcy was one of them, where they were just like, she rams her car. I don't know.
Yeah. I think, in a perfect world, this wouldn't be set up for a million other things, and Monica wouldn't have to have her origin story here. She could just be introduced as an adult character here and have her origin story somewhere else. But because I do think Monica is a great addition of the story.
And the dynamic between Jimmy Woo, Darcy, and Monica, love all that.
Great. And the dynamic between Wanda and Monica is very interesting, and I like that a lot.
They have some great conversations.
Yeah.
Not the last one, which I'll talk about, but
yeah,
they do have some good dialogue.
Sure. In a perfect world, Monica wouldn't have to have her origin story as a part of WandaVision.
No.
It doesn't fit for the story. But this isn't a perfect world. It's the MCU. So everything has to live on top of each other, like New York City. But
just layers on layers, but not good.
But, other than that, I feel like it's a pretty good finale. Like, they had to introduce the Darkhold stuff for Multiverse of Madness, and that's fine. The Scarlet Witch thing, I liked that, because that was brought about earlier in the flashback episode when they were referencing it, when Wanda got her powers, and it was fine. The Darkhold really doesn't need that much explanation. You get it. Like, you see it, and you're like, okay, evil book.
It's a plot device.
I got it. It doesn't really need that much, so I was fine with that. But I definitely like it more on a rewatch.
I can kind of get into my problems with the finale, which is just kind of twofold. The first is that I feel like they were doing some incredible things with Wanda's character, and everything about, like you mentioned, all the two visions, the dialogue that they have saying goodbye to, whether it's with the sons or just Vision and Wanda, that is all incredible. But they go back on all of the interesting and complex stuff that they were doing with Wanda, and it just reminds me of I don't know why I'm pulling Iron Man 3, but where they're trying to get into Tony Stark having PTSD, and then by the end of the movie he's just like, you know what, I'm actually fine, I'm pretty cool, so I'm good. And then WandaVision does something similar, where just they're dipping their toes into it, and obviously upon rewatch it's more than just dipping their toes, but I wish that it ended on a better note, and the post-credit scene does a good job at that, of hinting that she still has this dark side, but I don't know. I wish it did a better job.
That's interesting. I disagree. Why do you think they're pulling back on it? What makes you think that in the narrative? I'm just curious.
Mainly it's just the conversation with Monica and Wanda, where Monica's just like, they don't know what you sacrificed for them. And it's more than just that, but just the whole idea of Wanda's sacrifice equals the torture that she put these people through. And obviously that's not true.
Well, I agree that's not true, but I also don't think that that's what the narrative was trying to say. Why? Explain it for me a little more. I'm confused.
I think it's the Disneyfication, where the protagonist has to be a good guy by the end of the show, and it should have been more ambiguous. Like, she flies away from the town and everyone hates her, and they dive into that more with Agatha all along, but
yeah,
it should have been more clear that what she did was bad, so that people watching it, or mainly younger kids, know that what she did was bad, because it's not that clear.
Okay. I think... Okay, first of all, the direct response to Monica's quote, or to Monica's line, they'll never know what you sacrificed for them, is Wanda saying it wouldn't make a difference if they did. Which is true, because what Wanda did to them was so horrible. They don't care what she had to sacrifice for them. They'll always hate her because what she did was horrible, and she knows that. That's what that line means. So I'm confused in what you mean about the Disneyfication of making her a good guy. She's clearly not a good, quote-unquote, good guy at the end of this. She is not the hero of this story, even though she is the hero of the climax. The climax being the fight with Agatha.
Yeah, that's my whole problem, is that the show maybe even attempts to frame her in a better light by the end, and I just wish it didn't.
That's interesting. I don't think it does. I mean, just from my perspective, I don't feel like it tries to frame her in any different way. I feel like it has a pretty consistent view of Wanda, the show. Especially, I mean, the show is mostly Wanda's point of view, but not always, because there's lots of Monica's point of view as well. But I feel like the show has a consistent vision of Wanda. It doesn't endorse her actions by any means, but it does empathize with her and sympathize with the fact that she, even though it is the right thing to do and she needs to shut this all down, this world, she is giving up her husband and children. She has to make that choice to sacrifice them because they are not
which is
alive.
Undeniably a massive sacrifice.
Of course. So I think that the narrative, empathizes with her and sympathizes with her, but I don't think it endorses her actions at all.
And I don't know, I'm not saying it endorses her actions, and I think it's just a different way that we were watching it, where I just wish that there's a lot of very almost mature stuff that happens where maybe it's subconscious, but after Mr. Hart kind of tries to poke at her, then she chokes him.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of dark stuff, and I wish that was, I don't know, maintained, because it definitely gets lighter.
Does it? I think it's a pretty dark show. I think it's all about a woman lost in her own delusion, forcing everybody else to experience that along with her. The line, "When you let us sleep, we have your nightmares," is from the finale episode. Yeah, that's horrific. That is from the finale episode. I don't think it lets up on the darkness at all.
But that doesn't matter, because the second reason why I do not like the finale, and this is like it has narrative reason why I don't like it, but honestly it's just the nerd in me that's like, why the hell did you do this? And that is Ralph Boner. Like, he makes me angry.
No,
just the character itself.
He also makes me angry. Watching it, okay, so when they were making the show, I genuinely don't think they could have predicted the response that we were gonna have, because
they should have known, though.
No. Hold on. When they were making it, they had no idea that the entire world would be locked in their houses with nothing to care about or watch but WandaVision. Okay? They had no idea we were gonna get so invested, and they had no idea we were all gonna fix onto this point of Mephisto and say everything is blamed on Mephisto, and if Mephisto doesn't show up in this episode, we're rioting in the streets. Okay, we all got a little crazy. We all invested a little too much in theorizing between episodes.
I have to ask, were you a Mephisto believer? Because I never was.
I wasn't a Mephisto believer, but I sure as hell watched every single one of those breakdowns where they were like, Mephisto's gonna come. And sometimes I was like, you know what? Maybe. Anything could happen. I didn't think Mephisto was gonna show up, but I also...
Not for a second.
But I also did think that Pietro showing up as... people are going to hate me if I don't remember his name. What's his name in real life?
Oh, not
Damn
Aaron
it.
Taylor Johnson.
No,
It's
it's
the other
not.
one.
It's the wrong one. Yeah. Damn it. The
It was
gays are going to be mad at me. Whatever.
it's
He,
Kick-Ass.
yeah, kick ass.
Or Kick-Ass's friend or something.
God damn it. No. I'm just making me more mad because I remember all of the stuff he's in, but I don't remember his name. Anyway.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
No. Oh, shut up.
Just making you angry.
So him showing up, I did think this is gonna be, and especially having the next episode have the commercial about Nexus beings, about Nexus,
Yes.
the antidepressant. I was like, for sure, this is multiverse. Wanda is breaking open the multiverse unknowingly, and she is grabbing a Pietro from a different universe. And
I was confident that was happening.
me too. And we all were. And you know what? That specifically, fuck them for that. I was so angry about that.
And you know, it makes me angry, and I feel like we both hold the same opinion, is because there's no way that the writers or showrunners didn't know that people would think that. Like, that's exactly what they were meaning to go for.
Oh, for
and
sure.
that would have been phenomenal if that was actually the case. Like, I would have loved this plot point, but instead it was turned into a boner joke, and it makes me just furious.
Okay. The thing is, I think it would have worked. I think this plotline could have worked very well if they had cast a different actor. I think casting him, whoever he may be, because I forget his name, was a studio decision. I don't think it was a showrunner decision. I think it was a studio decision specifically to test the waters of a multiverse, because at that point they had just bought Fox. They had just bought the rights to the X-Men back. And they were like, look what we can do, you know? Like,
isn't this fun?
Yeah. And
then the fans latched onto it.
And that was very clearly a studio decision. I think a narrative decision to have Pietro, a fake version of Pietro, show up puppeted by Agatha, I think that could have worked very well, showing just how far into this delusion Wanda was. Because Agatha even says
if it was Aaron Taylor Johnson, like, that would have worked for me.
Maybe, yeah, but I don't.
MCU one.
Yeah, and they could have found a way to, like, you know, say it. They're like, oh, it's just an illusion. Yeah. It's a whole different guy. It's just a fake face that I put on him, right?
It would have been easy.
They could have figured out a way to do it. But I think casting him, Quicksilver from the Fox universe, was, you know, it was cruel. The way that it turned out.
Yeah.
And to make it a boner joke was just doubly cruel. It was just like, oh, this thing that you really want, you can't have it. But again, it felt like a studio decision. It did not feel like a showrunner decision, at least from my perspective.
But at the very least, the showrunners should have said no and just vetoed
They
that.
can't do that. It's Marvel. What are they going to do?
Can.
They could say it. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. The way that
they should have put their foot down.
Okay.
I still believe that Marvel wants to make good stuff, and they would have listened if someone had a compelling argument of, no, you will enrage the fans. Because obviously that's what's going to happen.
Well, you can make the argument that that wasn't obvious. Because, I mean, if you had said to me before that ever came out, oh, Quicksilver from the Fox universe is gonna be in this, I would have been fucking stoked, you know? And I mean, it wasn't him. It wasn't Quicksilver from the Fox universe. It was Ralph Boner. But even the allusion to it is showing progress. I mean, it is showing, hey, we can do this eventually, you know?
But that's not the progress that I wanted or anyone wanted.
No, of course not. That was clearly the intention, being like, it'll happen. It's not happening here, but it'll happen. You know, that's what it was. It was fan service. And was it good? No, absolutely not.
Yeah, Marvel has attempted a lot of fan service, especially in this last saga,
Oh
but
yeah.
that
And
didn't work.
no, and whenever they do fan service, it's not good. So
Yeah,
just
my
tell
dogs don't
good
like it either.
stories.
They're barking at whatever.
So whenever they do, try fan service, it's not good. So just stick to what is good. Tell good stories. WandaVision
Hmm.
is good. Loki is good. Okay, even, at the low level, Hawkeye, that one's fun.
Yeah. Or Agatha All Along, which is really
Oh
fun.
my god, it's so good so far. Okay, talk about Multiverse of Madness, or else I
Yeah.
will go right
I
into
mean,
Agatha.
I rewatched it, and I have always held the opinion that the filmmaking is so much fun, and I genuinely do love it. But yeah, it's rough
It's
for Wanda's
rough.
character.
I did not rewatch it, but from what I remember, I've only seen it once because I cannot stomach watching it again. Because it is a well-made film. It is fun,
Hmm.
and
And I
as a
love watching it.
as a Doctor Strange film,
Yeah.
it is a good time. Is it great?
Hmm.
Nah, but it's fun. Just like his first one. Was it the best Marvel movie? No, but it's fun. I love his
Yeah.
flying cape. I named it Jake. I love that thing. But
You named
I
it Jake.
I think so. I definitely named it something, but I don't 100% remember what it was, but Jake feels right. So I'm going to go with that.
Jonathan?
No, I don't think so.
No, that's Mjolnir's name.
But yeah, no, what they did to her character is really unforgivable. And the worst part is that Sam Raimi went out and said, "I didn't watch WandaVision." And not that he didn't watch it, because he couldn't have watched it because they were in production at the same time. He couldn't have watched it.
Even though Marvel could have easily allowed him to watch a screener. Easily.
Sure, they could have. But he didn't watch it. But at the very, very least, Marvel should have insisted that he read the script. They should have insisted. He said, "You're making this movie about this fucking character. You have to read the script."
And if it's going to be something as serious as a relapse that they're trying to talk about, or at least metaphorically talk about, then it needs to be deftly.
The way that they did it was just awful. And I'll never, honestly, it sucks because what I wanted for them to have fun with magic and for them to do cool magic sequences, they do in that film. And that film is so fun and interesting, but I don't think I'll be able to watch it again because unless somehow the Scarlet Witch movie pulls everything together, I genuinely have feelings of hatred when I watch that movie.
Really?
Or
I don't know
even
if I have
think
that
about
much hatred. Just because I like watching it. Like, I still enjoy the cool magical battles you were talking about. Like the music battle.
The music
Love all
battle's
that.
so good. It's just, like I said, Wanda is my favorite character. And I don't read comic books. We all know this. But I've read her comic book. I've read House of M. I really, really like her. And I think she's a cool character, okay? I just really care about her portrayal since WandaVision. Like, I liked her before WandaVision. I really liked her since Civil War. And when she popped up in Infinity War, I was like, good for you, girl. You get out of there. You have your fun. And then she got roped
She's
back in.
got a great moment in Endgame.
Well, she got roped
Thanos
back
is
in
like,
and
I don't even know you.
Girl, you're interrupting me. She was in Infinity War. She had to kill her freaking boyfriend. And it was awful. And it was at the heart of the film. And she is literally the most powerful. Like what's her name? I don't remember everyone's name
Captain
from that
Marvel?
movie but there's so many people in Infinity War. But someone is like, oh, why was she up there all this time? She was just sitting there with
Oh,
Vision,
Okoye.
and then she comes down. Oh, does Okoye say that? But
Hmm.
like she comes down and she decimates half of Thanos' army with one wave of her hands, and then she's like, "What the fuck were you doing up there? Come down here and help us." You know, like
even if she's just using telekinesis, like she is still the most powerful.
yeah, for sure. And there's just like, I've always loved her as a character because like she's so interesting in those little moments, and they're always, you know, with Vision or with Hawkeye, I guess. But um it's a really, she's a really interesting character to me, and the way that they just threw out everything from the end of WandaVision and goes, no, she's full evil now. She's on the hunt for her fake children. She's going to steal them from other universes. And I'm just like, but didn't she just learn her lesson? Like, I know that logically, I know that after you have a mental breakdown and experience psychosis due to trauma, the last thing in the world you should do is isolate yourself in the mountains with an evil book, right? That's the last thing you should do.
Was clearly hinting at that, but
sure.
And that's what I was kind of talking about with the Disneyfication, where maybe it's just the transition to Multiverse of Madness that I find the problems with WandaVision, which shouldn't even be the case because WandaVision should stand on its own. But
exactly. Well, that's
there
certainly where I find the
carryover.
Problems. Yeah, of course there should have. That's where I find the problems. The fact that WandaVision ends in this place, like, okay, instead of Multiverse of Madness picking up where Wanda is pretending to be all fine and cutting orchids in a fucking, I don't know, orchardery. I don't know what whatever. It is. No, she has like a whole orchard. I don't know what she's doing. Yeah. But she's like pretending to live this calm lifestyle when Doctor Strange comes to visit her. And instead of that, if they had opened on Wanda still alone in that cabin, you know, like hasn't taken a shower, hasn't brushed her hair, hasn't talked to anyone in months, is still beating herself up about everything she did in Westview, and is still reading this book and hearing the cries of her dead fake children. If that's where we opened, instead of her placidly cutting flowers off a fucking tree, I would have been okay with what happened in that movie, you know? It doesn't take a lot to fix it. It just takes a different introduction. Because the bridge between those two things is non-existent.
Right.
Okay, they thought, let's fix it with a little...
Yeah,
they thought, let's fix it with a little post-credit scene. Okay, fine. If that's the post-credit scene that you put in WandaVision, then Multiverse of Madness better pick up from that. Don't show us this character who you've been following for over 10 years, off screen, has fallen into evil and has been corrupted by this book where you can't see it. If they had shown her being actively corrupted, like trying to make good decisions, but this evil thoughts keep coming into her brain, you know, she's a witch. Everything she thinks becomes reality. Why not play with that? Why not show her being lured into this? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I know that that's not the movie that was pitched for Multiverse of Madness. I know that it's following Doctor Strange. But if that's the case, then there should have been something in between these two things. Because to have Wanda go from one to the other does not make sense for her character arc. It just doesn't.
Or even just because Doctor Strange is in the title of the movie, that doesn't mean that Wanda shouldn't have just as much focus. Because even Doctor Strange doesn't get a lot of character work.
Exactly. Like, nobody has really an arc in that movie. I'm sorry.
Well, they attempt it, because I like the one line at the end where Doctor Strange is talking to Wong, and then Wong says something like, I'm happy being the variation of me that I am. I like that one isolated line. And I was like,
Yeah,
there
but
needed more of that.
but
Dive
Wong
into
is
that.
always great. Wong's the best, okay?
Yeah, Wong is.
America in that movie, I'm sorry. What's her arc? What's her arc in that movie?
I don't even
Oh,
know. Learn how
I'm
to use your powers. I don't know.
that's not an arc. That's a plot function. That is what she's doing in the plot. She is learning how to use her powers.
And how does she learn how to use her powers? She just does.
She just does. No practice. And it's just like that movie, it's aesthetically beautiful. It's a fun watch if you turn your brain off. Unfortunately, I'm incapable of that.
Maybe don't be as sober. Go watch it. It's a great time.
I guess I'll give it a shot at some point.
No, you don't have to.
In 10 years.
But
No.
what is a great transition is to Agatha, because that is another great show to just not be as sober and just have a blast.
I don't need to be drunk to watch Agatha. I have so much fun with it. Okay? I mean, that Down the Witch's Road song, that's been stuck in my head for weeks now. And it is...
And even what were they, the Salem 7? And the camera work and editing where they were just folded out from each other.
So fun. The practical sets, thank you. Thank you for using practical sets. They were like, this was inspired by The Wizard of Oz. And I was like, yeah, I can fucking see that. Okay. They built the practical Witch's Road indoors, just like the Yellow Brick Road in The Wizard of Oz was built indoors to create this sort of bubble-like world, this dimension, And
yes,
it feels all-encompassing. It feels excellent. I love it. You can't go wrong with Catherine Hahn, Aubrey Plaza,
no, she's so much
Joe
fun.
Locke, Patty LaFrickin' Oh my god, so good. Everyone else is so good.
The cast
too.
is amazing. I am very sad that I don't know the actress's name, but Susan or Kitty from that 70s show.
You don't know her name? You don't know Deborah Jo Rupp's name? I know her name.
I don't know her name.
Deborah Jo Rupp.
I'm sorry, Deborah.
The mother of our childhood favorite show. How dare you? We watched that show all the time. It wasn't my
childhood favorite
show. You
I'm
watched
sorry.
That show with me a ton. What are you talking about?
No, I don't think I did.
You didn't watch that 70s show with me?
I've barely seen that show.
That might have been your sister. Oh, well.
But I thought that she was an integral member of the coven, and then she died. Spoilers.
Well, I mean, it's very obvious that she needed to die because she needs to be replaced by Aubrey Plaza, who is the actual nature witch, but green witch. But I don't think she's fully dead. I think if she's fully dead, I will respect the hell out of them. I love her, and I loved what she brought. But if she's fully dead, I will respect them.
No, I'm pretty confident that she's just dead and gone. I could be wrong though, because there's a lot of witchy stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. But this last episode, I'm so interested with everyone's backstories, like Sashir Zamata's backstory, what Jen, her character's name is Jen, like what's going on there? Who's that guy? Why is he trying to drown her? It's so interesting. I don't know.
And how did she take away her powers, or how did he take away her powers?
Yeah, someone took away her powers.
Or sealed? I mean, what did she say?
She I don't remember. But, she can't do magic. And,
it's interesting. And then the fortune teller lady who also lived back in the 1600s or whatever.
The fortune teller lady.
She's got some freaky
The fortune teller lady. You mean Patty LaPone?
I don't know anyone's names. I'm sorry.
You don't know Patty LaPone? Okay, I can't do this with you again. Patty LaPone is an icon. A theater icon. She's everything.
I know nothing about theater. I'm sorry.
You disgust me. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so I looked it up. Her character's name is Lilia. I do kind of remember that. Interestingly, Joe Locke's character is listed as Teen or Teenie. Teenie. I love that. I love that.
Teenie. But we all know who he is.
Toto. He's clearly Toto.
Yes. No, they even name drop Mephisto, and I don't know. He's not going to be in this show.
No, of course not. But I lost my shit. So Sashir Zamata said Mephisto, and I literally had to pause the episode. I got up and I went, no fucking way.
The Penguin, which we'll talk about later, did something similar where they named, I mean, I'll talk about later, but they name dropped a character, and I did the same thing, where I just had to stand up and be like, they did not just do that. No. I think it was very clearly a joke. They're like, we know how much y'all wanted to see Mephisto. Okay, here we go. Although...
That's so funny.
Sadly, I had it spoiled for me on Twitter.
Don't spoil
Aubrey
anything
Plaza
for
is
me.
Playing.
Don't. Her name is
all that
Rio
I will
Vital.
say is...
Don't tell me anything. Don't tell me a goddamn thing. I don't want to know anything.
Okay. I'm just saying the comic book information that like the first episode gave us, because they said the name Blackheart, who is the son of Mephisto in the comics.
Don't tell me. I didn't want to know.
But that's not who it is. It's not Blackheart.
Okay. She didn't say her name was Blackheart. She said she has a black heart. And then they on the list of the witches, she wrote a black heart.
The only reason why I brought that up is because that is a very specific name, and the witchy magical side of Marvel has a demon named Blackheart. But that's I think they knew what they were doing, but that's not at all who that character is.
Okay. Well, when it was very clear, they were like, she was like, oh, you don't have a heart. And she was like, I do. It's black and it beats only for you. And then she licks her goddamn hand and it's the sexiest thing in the world. This show's so sapphic, by the way. Like, oh, yeah. Crazy. Okay. I could write a whole paper on it. And there's only been 3 episodes. Just wait. I'm so excited.
It's not very sapphic, but even just the moment... I don't know if it's in the same fight, but where they're trying to kill each other, and then Catherine Hahn just says something that's like, you can't kill me. It's not allowed.
Catherine Hahn does not say that. Aubrey Plaza says that. And what do you mean that's not sapphic? That is the most sapphic fight I have seen since... the last sapphic fight. No.
I was talking about the line specifically.
That line
and Aubrey Plaza says...
Babe.
No, it's... They definitely each say that they can't kill each other.
Yeah. That... Okay. You have to take into context not just the words that she's saying. You have to take in the way she's saying it, the tone, the position she's in. She's literally on top of her when she says that.
Yes.
They're on the ground on top of one another. Like, girl.
That is true.
This show is for the girls and the gays, and they know what they were doing. So
I'm still enjoying it though. And I am not a girl, nor am I a gay.
Well, that's fine. You can enjoy things that weren't made for you. I enjoy Iron Man. That wasn't made for me, but it's nice to have something. Stuff. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have something that's like, I can point to that thing. That's really good. And it has everyone I love in it. So it's very fun so far. I'm very excited for the rest of that show. I will be singing Down the Witch's Road every Thursday from now on.
Just for the lead up to the episode in the seconds that before it premieres.
Oh, for sure.
But I feel like now it is time to move on to the consumption corner, even though we were just talking about something we're consuming. But Sasha, what have you been consuming other than Agatha all along?
Ooh, I have been reading this book. It's called The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. Casey McQuiston's new book. It's a fun little romance romp about 2 people traveling the world. And you know, they have a bet. Well, they're exes, and they have a bet of who can sleep with the most strangers. on
Okay.
this trip that they're having as they're traveling through France and Italy. Um, and you know what? It's absolute romance trash, but I'm having a good time reading it, so it's a fun time.
So I have been going to the theater recently, and sadly I haven't
Woo!
watched The Substance, even though I really want to, and my theater's not showing anymore. I'm genuinely angry.
Oh damn.
But
I should have
I
led with that.
watched,
That's the thing that I
yeah,
watched that actually is important. I watched The Substance.
man, and we will talk about that hopefully because I need to watch it.
Oh,
But
for
I
sure.
also watched Transformers 1 and The Wild Robot, which are both, I'm going to say it, masterpieces. They're cinema.
I heard The Wild
I
Robot is very good.
I texted you about both of them, and The Wild Robot I cried about 5 separate times just because I loved the characters and I grew to just know each and every single one of them, and I would have jumped through the screen to protect them. But Transformers 1, I expected absolutely nothing, and the marketing team for that should be just cast into a fire because those trailers are god awful. They make it look like some really bad comedy that's just marketed to 5-year-olds, but the movie should never have been marketed like that because first off, it is not appropriate for a kid at all. There are some Transformers being ripped in half, getting their heads cut off. You see the light leave their eyes. The whole theme of the movie is bodily autonomy, and there's a moment where the hero of the movie figures out that, you know, the twist villain who you can see coming from a mile away because this movie is predictable, but it's revealed that the twist villain is a villain, and then the hero's like, hey, let's expose his lies, don't you want to do that? And then the Megatron, who the whole movie is setting up his turn, he instead says, no, I want to kill him and I want to parade his body through the streets. And that's exactly what he says in this kid's movie. And
Whoa.
I cannot stop gushing about it. I loved Transformers 1. Everybody go watch it so that it can get a sequel. Please. Please.
Wow, that's
Or
high
even,
praise.
yeah, my last thought about it is the fact that they explain the name Autobots, and it's because it's these robots trying to get their own bodily autonomy from their corrupt and classist government. Like that, I don't know how the fuck they did that so well. But yeah,
Interesting.
that's
I don't have
Transformers 1.
much to add because I haven't seen it, but that sounds really good.
I'm not gonna lie, Sasha, you might love it. Like, go watch The Wild
I
Robot,
might. I
obviously.
might.
That is a fantastic animation. But
Yes.
Transformers 1, unexpectedly phenomenal.
Let me let me go back real quick and just
Mhm.
talk a little bit about The Substance. I won't tell you anything
Yes,
about
please
it.
do.
Um, I'll just tell you my reaction. So I went in not really knowing what it was about. I just knew that it was, directed by a woman, and it was vaguely about um, the male gaze and beauty standards. That's pretty much what I knew going in.
The only thing that I know about it is that it is about some sci-fi body horror beauty product. Like that's all I know.
I
Is that even
think
true?
it's not about that. Um
Okay.
it is, I think the messaging of the film is definitely more about the beauty standard. Um
hmm
and the, Hollywood, and how these standards are pushed on you. It's so good. Like, I don't even have the words to describe it. I went to see it with two friends, and we were completely speechless. Like, we sat in the theater for all of the credits, completely silent. We did not move. We did not.
Really?
We could not speak.
Oh,
The way
I
that
gotta
this
watch this.
movie affects you. Like, we walked out of there, we went to a bar, and we were just like, we genuinely could not speak. And we were like, I cannot go home alone. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to look in the mirror. I don't want to think about anything. We had to go back to my friend's house and we watched Clue. We watched the movie Clue with Tim Curry, one of my favorite comedies of all time, to take our minds off of what we had just seen. Not in a bad way. It's an excellent, excellent film, but it is
I
memorable.
I'd heard that it was a harrowing watch, but I gotta psych myself up for it. And it sounds like I'm gonna have to drive a couple 100 miles to the nearest theater that is showing it, but I might just do it. This movie sounds incredible.
It is a harrowing watch, and it is definitely worth seeing if you can. Yeah, it's so hard to talk about without talking about it and spoiling it, but everyone go see The Substance unless you are not okay with being extremely uncomfortable. Then don't go see it. Some people see
that's just not for horror.
No, not just horror. like it's so psychological and it's so unsettling. Like some people definitely shouldn't see it. For sure. Okay. It's not a movie where it's like, this is so good, everyone should see it. It is so good, and I think every man should see it for sure. I think men should watch this movie, but I think there's definitely some women who are like, no, if this triggers you, like, don't watch it because it will trigger you and it will be bad. But it's very good. It's a very good film. I'm not describing it as it is a very good film, but it is. It's 5 stars, 10 out of 10, a masterpiece. Okay. So good.
Yeah. If you can stomach it, go watch it. Because I definitely will.
Yeah.
But I have also, and I alluded to it before, but I haven't seen the second episode, which is out at time of recording this, but I've watched the first episode of The Penguin, and I loved it. I mean, I was kind of expecting to. I like Matt Reeves' Batman universe. It's just more of that. It's great. Nice. They name dropped the Hangman, who is, I'm spoiling it, but it's in the sequel to The Long Halloween, the comic. I believe it's called The Dark Victory. But she is this, Sophia Falcone is this serial killer that goes around by the name of the Hangman. And you obviously don't know that it's Sophia Falcone, but that is one of my favorite villains. And as soon as they name dropped that, I was in 100%.
Love that. Okay. Might have to watch it.
No, it's good. It's really good.
Well, we know how I
it's
feel
just
about
The Sopranos,
Batman, so. But yeah.
But I have also been reading a whole lot of, I don't know what got me into this, but I had a free day, so I binged a whole bunch of horror thriller comics. One was a really short, like, 1-issue thing called The Underwater Welder, which I've already bought. I loved it so much. It was by Jeff Lemire. Definitely go watch that. It's all black and white. The art is a bit, I don't know if crude is the right word, but it's very atmospheric. I also read Nice House on the Lake, which there were parts of it that I didn't like, and it reminded me of what we talked about in our last episode about Interview with a Vampire, where I just don't necessarily like stories that play with memories because it just confuses me, I guess. But I still really loved that comic. And then lastly, I read Gideon Falls, which I just read all of the whole thing because I loved it so much. I'm probably going to buy that one as well, even though it's expensive.
Well, hey, I'm never one to say don't buy books. Always,
if
even
you
if
like
it's expensive,
something,
buy books.
Buy it in physical media.
Yes, physical media is important. Yeah, I'm rewatching Parks and Rec. Love that show.
I'm also currently rewatching The Office.
Oh, nice. Similar vibes.
Nice.
I did just finish rewatching something, and if only I could remember what it was. But I can't. Oh well.
Oh well.
But I think that's all for me. I mean I watched I watched a movie for a class that I'm in. If
Was
you
it a
want to
fun
hear
one?
about that, it's a 1920 something silent film,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
based on a play by Oscar Wilde. So maybe not the most fun, but I enjoyed it for sure.
Yeah, I have a hard time going back to classics. Like, obviously, some are great, but a lot of them are slow.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, for fun. That's not a choice that I would make. But for if I'm looking for something interesting to analyze, definitely I'll go watch one of them.
I don't know why I just thought of this as a massive tangent to go on at the end of the episode, but it just reminds me of, the first Star Wars ever. Not everything, but almost everything after that was just fast paced and you got to maintain the viewer's attention. And then everything pre that is just a little bit slower, a little bit more contemplative. It lets the viewer think. But
I
just
love
film in
that.
general, man.
I love
We've
thinking.
changed.
Yeah, let audiences think more. Trust audiences more. I want that on a t-shirt. People don't like
Yes.
the studios don't trust audiences enough. And you know what?
Or even just something that says audiences aren't dumb.
Well, I mean sometimes they are. Some people watched
Yeah.
some people watched the Barbie movie and went, "This is the height of feminism." This person wants all men to die. Some people watched the Barbie movie and thought that. So some people are dumb. But most
Yeah.
people can think a little more than you give them credit for.
Well, Sasha, what's a good closer?
This has been a witchy ass podcast.
Woo.
What the fuck?
Witches and ghosts, they go together.